We have some exciting things for you. Did you know we have a Substack here with Your Story Matters? This is where I post my content daily of articles and helpful updates and notes to encourage your daily walk and healing in recovery from trauma and abuse. Also, I have matching videos on YouTube. If you just go to Your Story Matters YouTube, search it out, you'll find me, Branon Dempsey. Also, we're on Facebook, Threads, and again, our Substack page. So don't forget, search those up. Now, hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for joining. Hey, friends, welcome back to another episode of the Your Story Matters podcast. Branon Dempsey here. And this is your post-holiday, kind of mid-holiday, because we're in the middle of between the crest of Christmas and New Year's. So you've come to the right place. How did your Christmas go? Was it filled with, family drama, with leftovers of all the emotions that you're unpacking right now? Yes, you're in that season. And, for some of you, you may be hitting it again with New Year's Eve or New Year's Day gathering just around the corner. So I'm hoping that today's podcast will provide you some tools and perspective of how to deal with it, because we're asking the question today, why do the holidays hit so hard? Now, for me, I've gone through this emotional struggle, and what's interesting is that even when the event is over, it still lingers, right? And even it happens for days. I don't know about you, but for me, I'm still trying to process not just the events that happen today, but things have happened years ago that maybe what I went through today reactivated all its triggers. So let's dive in deep. The holidays come preloaded with expectation. And as I said to my wife, it's better for us to lower our expectations jumping into whatever events that we're going into, because holidays are triggering, because it's the most wonderful time of the year, right? Well, that's not necessarily true for most of us. It's the most wretched, horrible time of the year. And I don't mean it's not horrible celebrating our Lord and Savior's birth at Christmas. I mean the associations that we have around it, which have made us feel unsafe. And when your lived experience does not match the narrative of what you wish things would be like, your body registers that mismatch as stress, as pain. So even if nothing explosive ever happened to you, maybe this past Christmas, and no one in your gathering yelled and you thought everything was peaceful, it doesn't mean that your nervous system is still not firing off. So what do we do about it? It seems like family gatherings, we ask the question, then why does it hit so hard? It seems like family gatherings pull you back into those old patterns, those old familiarities that we don't like to relive. And you might be confident and grounded all year long, but the moment when you see the first Christmas commercial that happens on your social feed or TV, it's like crap. It takes you back to those familiar places where your body remembers what it had to survive. And then we know the countdown starts. And then we have the ramp up to Christmas dinner, Christmas gatherings. And this is why we hate it. And then when it's all over, we are completely exhausted, because your adult logic, even during the moment when you're trying to make the best of it, you may tell yourself that you think you're fine, but on the inside, it's a scream fest. And that internal split is what takes the toll over all of us. So that's why they hit so hard. So now the roles that reappear without permission. Okay, track with me on this one. What do I mean by that? Family systems tend to freeze people in time, okay? Especially when trauma happens, because in that moment, whatever happened to us at 6, 8, or 12, everything else stands still, and you remember that one activity, that one event, and you remember everything else that you associated around it. It relates to who you are. It doesn't talk about who you are becoming in the present. It's about the past. And this is what I mean by the holidays kind of sneak in and drag you back down. So you can do years of healing, right? But you can still feel like you're 10 years old again at that dinner table asking the question, why is this happening all over again? But please understand, this is not regression, okay? This is what your body is remembering. It's the conditioning that you've been through, and now you're learning how to be aware of it and call it out for what it is. So, we try to reassume ourselves a different role, because the role that we knew was about staying quiet. You need to perform, you need to achieve, you need to apologize, and you need to be silent from all those emotions that are going on with you. And then when those roles get activated, our system burns a massive amount of energy holding yourself together. You always stay alert. This is why some of you maybe have insomnia, why you can't sleep, why you can't relax during the holidays. When everyone else seems to be having a great time, we're the ones who are going nuts, at least maybe on the inside. And then when it's finally over, your body crashes.
You're listening to Your Story Matters with Branon Dempsey. We invite you to subscribe to this podcast and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Threads at Branon Dempsey, Your Story Matters. Now back to our episode.
So this is the emotional hangover that no one talks about. And we were laughing over this after Christmas dinner because it's kind of like leftovers, right? You eat leftovers for days. Well, memory has its way of doing the same thing to us. It's like, no, I don't want another bowl of stuffing. I don't want what happened to me again. I don't want to go through that memory. It's the brain fog, the irritability that we feel, the low mood, the tight chest. And don't forget also just the typical common after Christmas blues that just happens. And you might replay conversations over and over in your head. You might feel shame for things that you said or didn't say at the table. You might feel angry at the person who showed up, or you going to their house maybe and not setting the boundaries that you wanted to. You may be angry at others for crossing them, right? And then you feel lonely even though you just spent time with people because you are just a wreck. And the things that you held in high expectation just didn't come through. So that doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It just means that your nervous system has completely been through hell and you're on high alert and you're struggling to recalibrate. That's normal. In fact, that's not just normal. That's also another survival response, right? Because when we were those young years of ourselves, our body also went back into the survival mode, and it does the same thing when we're adults. So it's kind of like that's why that you get that feeling again. That's why you have those thoughts that come up and you're always asking, well, why do I feel like, I thought that I healed this version of my life. It doesn't mean you haven't healed it. It just, again, your body at that moment from that memory felt unsafe. And even though you're in a safe place again, you're still fighting the feelings. So then how do we work through it? How do we work through the family gatherings without feeling we're bracing for impact? And even though we try to smile on the outside, but on the inside, it's not the same way. And even when you're trying to be kind to people, it seems like the most hardest step that you can ever do is to, bite that tongue. But this is where all the emotions that we have begin to surface. The grief, the anger, the disappointment, the sadness, the old memories, the unspoken truths, why you didn't like what happened. Why this is true for you of what happened. And you're surrounded with a bunch of people in that room that just disbelieved you all your life. You are not alone. I've felt this all my life with every Christmas gathering, Thanksgiving, Easter, even just a regular weekend gathering. And I'll be honest with you, I will not spend holidays with my biological family, the family that raised me, because it's too painful. I have too many triggers. I have too many memories. I have too many things that I want to say that I won't say, and things that I will say that maybe I will regret later, which I wish I didn't. And this is the grief beneath the gathering. Often what hurts us the most is not even what happened in the present. it's what sometimes what didn't even happen in the past either. Maybe the pain that we feel is not what never did happen, because this explains what anxiety is: the fear of the unknown, the fear of what our bodies have been through. And it can range like from the apology that you never received from a parent, the emotional safety that you never had from a loved one in a family, the parent you needed but you didn't get, the family you kept hoping that one day you would see change, but nothing happened. See, holidays highlight absence. They shine a spotlight on the gap between longing and reality. And when everyone leaves, you're the one holding the leftovers, the grief, the heaviness, the loneliness. So why does guilt show up after relief? In other words, when the party's over and you feel like, wow, I'm so glad I got them out of my house. But then immediately this thought comes to mind of, oh man, I shouldn't have those thoughts. Oh, wow, I wish I didn't feel that way. Oh, wow, why did I want them out of the room so quickly or out of the house so quickly? And we start feeling guilty, even of feeling relieved. And we think, my God, this is not right. What's going on with me? Well, that is the very conditioning that you may have lived through. I can speak for myself. That's the conditioning that I lived through. And when I begin to relax, I feel guilty. Why do I feel guilty relaxing? Because the younger version of me was too busy chasing my parents, trying to be the middleman and trying to manage their dysregulatories. Did I say that right? Dysregulations. Okay, happy holidays. My brain is turned off. But see, I spent so much time trying to be the counselor between my mom and dad because they constantly fought, or the healer to my sister or my brother because they were hurt. And then it left me alone. See, that kept me emotionally busy and I was spent. So it only makes sense that I would still have those emotions as an adult. I've gotten better at them. And when I leave and when I relax now, I can say to myself, yeah, I'm still feeling that tension. But the truth is, and I've said this in many podcast episodes before, the truth is those events are no longer happening. And I know it's easier said than done because your body's still feeling it. But the reality that you got to face is that those things are not happening anymore. That's what my therapist had to drill into me. And you have to trust what you know. It's not so much on what you feel. I'm not saying that we disregard our feelings. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm saying that we can't let our feelings dictate our reality. You can still feel the feelings without being ruled by them. I talked a lot about that also in my YouTube videos when I'm addressing men in their 30s and 40s because they run around trying to climb the corporate ladder, right? Because it feels good. It's the feeling of tension they want to escape. Well, this is very much the same thing, the tension we want to escape in dealing with our own family drama. It leaves us emotionally exhausted, and then we feel guilty. This is the reason why, because back at that time, when those feelings were real in that moment, when we were 13, it just left us helpless. And so we don't want to feel that way again. And so we combat that as adults by feeling responsible. So you can love people, but still feel safer when they're not around. And I know that truth, it may sound cold, but it's also honest. Because you got to realize that you have to give your brain, your mind, your body a sense of space also. Because even after the holidays are over, your body still remembers. Trauma is not just about what happened. It's also about what happened to your body and what it learned to expect. And that's what throws us again into survival mode. For me, it was the raised voices. It was the dismissive comments. It was the physical pushing, the physical parts of it that were also unwanted and ugly and dangerous. The verbal jabs, the emotional unpredictability of narcissism, walking on eggshells. even if nothing happened overtly, your body still remembers it years later. So even when the season ends, your system still is unwinding from those old alarms. And this is why rest alone doesn't always restore peace. Your body needs to reassurance. Your mind needs to recalibrate. And I have found different things helpful. Like you may be asking, okay, Brandon, you talked enough, but how do you deal with those triggers? How do you deal with those events when Christmas or holidays or whatever is over? I spend a lot of time talking about it with, number one, with my wife. She's my best friend. There is no one who knows me closer than she does. And then I also spend time talking with my best friend, my male counterparts. I have two of them that I generally speak with about, maybe anything from every other day to once a week. And it helps to talk and bounce things off. Can you believe this? But not to ramrod people and not to gossip, but hey, look, we're human and sometimes it happens, but then you got to get it out and vent it. But the difference is you don't stay there. So I do recommend talking about your honest reactions and emotions and your feelings to somebody that you trust. And just to get it out, say, can you believe what happened? I mean, because in the moment when things are firing off and on the inside, you may not have that opportunity to speak about how ungodly, how audacious, bizarre the event is. But you got to give yourself a place and a chance where you can.
As we take this quick break, did you know that most of our podcasts are also video recorded? Search our YouTube page at Branon Dempsey. Your story matters. Subscribe and watch our video episodes.
And then I give myself time also to do things like go on a walk and just process. It's not about walking away from the emotions. That's not what I mean. It's not about hiding them. It's not about saying, oh, I got to get away from this house or these things that remind me. And maybe, you need to do that too, and that can be helpful. But again, you don't stay in that emotion. I walk the dog. My wife and I may walk together. I may walk by myself. And it's the physical movement of going forward. Sometimes that kind of tricks the brain also into a different mode. It also would be later on replacing a bad memory with a good memory. And that could be something as simple as, yeah, you know what? I really, really hated that experience when so-and-so looked at me from the table. But then I can counteract that feeling of, well, you know what? They also don't live here. Or you know what? That has a timetable because they left. And you know what? That's not the way that I lead my family. That's not the way I love my children. It's different with me. And so I'm replacing good associations of what I'm doing now to be in charge of myself versus where I was as a child when I was defenseless. So and that right there is also another way of naming the event. And it could also be in the moment too. Let's say another way that I deal with these emotions are in the event itself, like when grandma is up to her antics again and she's just blabbing from the table, her narcissistic self, whatever. One way that I've learned to counteract this over the years is to have the thought of, there she goes again. Like not in a bad way, but more like I want to expect this toy to be wound up before we get there, right? And then when we get there, we're going to let this toy that's wound up, we're going to release that pin and let it go. And then when those emotions come around and you see mom acting the way she does, it's kind of like, yep, there she goes. Just like she did a year ago, just like she did last week on the phone, whatever. And it's easier. It's kind of like a softer way to blow things off instead of just getting mad about it. Like, oh, I can't believe she did that. Because that's our first reaction, right? But I think the second reaction is better, just to name it and go, yep, there goes mom again. Or, yep, there goes that memory of she's always repeating that same story. It drives me crazy. But I can say to myself, yeah, but I'm not this is good. I'm not the memory that she has. I'm the memory that I want to make it now. Wow, that's power right there. When you could say things like that, I mean, that gives you the confidence and the boost of what you need for that reality moment and go, yeah, I'm not those things that they said that I was. I'm not that person. I'm not that still, what am I looking for? I'm not that same pain that I felt back then. I'm the same person, but I'm no longer going through those painful moments anymore. That is powerful, my friends. It's so powerful. Name it and claim it, right? So these are the dysfunctional leftovers that we're talking about. And naming these experiences, it doesn't make you negative, because some may be like, well, yeah, but you're just choosing to stay there. You're just being mad, and you're just, venting about it. Well, maybe there's the little side of humanity where I'm feeling it, sure. And am I feeling a little negative at that moment? I could be, maybe. But it's also helping me ground in reality. I think that's the difference, because healing begins when you stop minimizing your own experience. It begins when you start to say, yeah, you know what? That was huge. Man, when I was 16 and that happened, that was a big deal. See how different that is? Because before we were 16, it was more like, no, I'm fine. No, what a big deal. I don't need to talk about that. So when I see people do that, I'm very cautious. When I hear people say things like, well, I don't want to talk about it. There's a twofold response in that. Maybe they're not ready to talk about it, and that's okay. It really is. Or they're running. The second thing is that maybe they're running from their own trauma, which is dangerous, because that's what I did. I was the one back then at 16 going, nope, I don't want to talk about it. No, I'm just going to act like my parents were the best parents in the world, even though I know different. And I'm going to carry that lie because it helps me feel better. But when I'm an adult now, I can say, you know what? The real liar in the room were my parents, not me. I was just trying to make most of that situation because I was trying to help myself. You were trying to save yourself. So I think when we start giving liberty to our own emotions and reality to what we really experience as kids, it makes a whole big freaking difference, because you stop minimizing that experience. All right. So before we wrap up, let me give you some practical steps of how to restore peace. And I'm going to start doing this more on these podcasts, these episodes. Something's really been clicking in me. Like I hope you have listened to the year-end review that I did for Your Story Matters, and we went through all the podcasts and the new things I'm getting into and what I'm talking about now and still healing with. I want to share them more with you. We're going to have guest interviews, but I'm going to start giving more practical advice like this, because I just find it helpful for me to hear your stories and then to meet each of you. And then it just gives me more of that perspective of, aha, we're all not alone here. All right, so practical steps. Let's go through it. To restore your peace. Number one, give yourself permission to decompress. That's kind of what I talked about at the beginning of this podcast. Stop telling yourself you should be fine by now. I would say stop lying to yourself, okay? So schedule some decompression time. If you've been under the water for that long, or if you know anything about scuba diving, you know that your body has to decompress when it comes back to the surface. And that's the same thing dealing with all the family dysfunctions and the trauma that we experienced. Number two, regulate before you reflect. Okay. So this is you not jumping straight into analyzing every event that happened. Okay. It's like what I mentioned earlier. It's you can vent it at first, but then do things like go for a walk, do some breathing exercises. Maybe you're at home and you just need to take a shower and just wash off the day. Maybe stretching, working out. Maybe music that feels safe to you. Your body needs to feel grounded before your mind can process clearly, because once you do, then it's like, oh, okay, this is what happened in that moment, because you're no longer emotionally charged. right? And you can think better for yourself. Number 3, write without editing yourself. Ooh, what does that mean? Okay. Journaling comes to mind. Now, look, I'm not a big journaler. I'll tell you, I'm not. Some people are not wired that way. I rather talk things out. So sometimes what I'll do, like, you know what? It's what I'm doing right now. I'll do a podcast. I know it sounds kind of silly, but sometimes, when I can dictate things down like this and then write it later, like if I'm writing an article or writing a book, whatever, this is what helps me. This is how I do it. But for you, it may be taking out a size sheet of paper or a spiral or a journal book, whatever, and just writing down how you feel and just writing down the events of what happened. But I'll tell you, through the deep therapy that I've gone through, yes, I've learned this long ago, just writing things down. There's something magical that happens when you see it in writing and on paper. And so, yes, even though I'm not a journaler, I will still, when I need to, I will still grab my journal book and just write things down, or I'll type it in my notes. Oh, that's a cool thing too. And my iPhone, I'll just get out my notes, my little notepad, and I have a lot of things stored in there where I'll just write like, hey, today was such and such, or I felt this way. It's another way to relieve the anger, sadness, relieving yourself from the fear. It can feel messy, and the truth is no one has to read it. It's about your truth. It's not about for anybody else's eyes to see. Okay, number 4, reclaiming your space, reclaiming your physical space. Maybe it's cleaning your house, rearranging a chair, lighting a candle, opening a window, something different that you can do that will signal to your nervous system, hey, I'm here in the present now. And you're allowed to make the space, you're allowed to have things feel like your home again, the way that you want it. Okay. Number 5, rehashing conversations. This is kind of what I said at the beginning too, is, processing the healthy, the unhealthy, garbage in, garbage out kind of thing. But what I didn't say is that when you're doing that, you're reminding yourself that replaying that moment in your head, those moments haven't changed, but you have. And so it's bringing the idea back to yourself of saying, you know what, I am X amount age right now. I'm 34 right now, and I'm present. I'm here. I'm not where I was. Okay. Like I said, you're not allowing those emotions to control you. Number 6, ground yourself in what is true now. So that's what I said earlier by, use what you know now. You're not a child anymore. You do have agency. You have boundaries. You have support because you survived what once overwhelmed you. And now speak those truths out loud if needed, because your peace depends on it. Number 7, reconnect with safe people. That means like my best friends that I talked about, calling them up, texting them, saying, hey, can we I need a reality check. Can we talk for about, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. Reach out to people who see you as you are now, not where you were. And then connection with safe people also helps rewires your sense of belonging. All right, so we're going to do 3 more. Number 8, reestablishing boundaries for the future. The effects have been done, but you got to look at it as data. What drained you, what you felt that was invasive back then, what you tolerated that cost at your peace. You don't have to decide to do everything right now. Just notice, take an inventory of what happened. Like this happened at dinner. This happened on that weekend. But the healing includes learning from the impact, not blaming yourself or making a list of what you need to, that you're wrong, how you were wrong in that situation. That's not what it's about. It's not a tally. It's more of a noticing what's happening, take it into inventory, so you're acknowledging the event. That goes with naming the event. All right, number 9, releasing the fantasy of, release the fantasy of what you wanted to happen and letting that go. Maybe there are things that you hoped for. Maybe those are things that just didn't happen. You can accept people as they are, but without surrendering your own needs, and that's okay. It's letting go of the fantasy of what you like for it to happen, and just be real about what is happening. Like what I said earlier, there goes mom again. Instead of me wishing that mom would be better and everything's pleasant and rosy, I know that's not going to be the case. It doesn't mean I need to demonize those events in the future. It just means I need to be real about it. Say, okay, well, that's who she is. And now you can only say that when you have a lot of healing, or you're going through a lot of healing in that moment. It doesn't just happen overnight. It is a process. Number 10, last one, is anchor back to your own identity. Family systems often pull you down to old definitions, but you need to remind yourself of who you are now. Not the role of who you were, not the label, not the scapegoat, not the fixer, me, right? Not the mediator between my mom and dad. Because my worth was never determined. Your worth was never determined on how well you manage other people's emotions. That's abusive, actually. Do you know that? So we're learning how to deal with the Christmas leftovers. We're learning how to deal with the after effects of feeling overwhelmed, the emotional crash. But this is why support helps, the therapy, the coaching, the safe community that you developed with your safe people, because healing is not about doing it alone. And it's not about being alone either on the holidays, because they can be the most loneliest place, but you need to surround yourself with those who truly, genuinely love you. And it's also not about abandoning yourself when those feelings take over and it hurts. The truth is, you're not broken needing for surgery. You're just in need of recovering of what failed you. And that's okay. It means that you're human inside. It means that you cared, you noticed. It means that you're healing. Peace doesn't return all at once. It comes in layers. It happens over time. See, leftovers are not the ending. Dysfunctional leftovers are not proof that nothing has changed, okay? They're often proof that something has. What is that? Your awareness, your sense of peace, your boundaries, your discernment, your self-trust. And to wrap up here, healing does not always feel good at first. In fact, it can feel brutal. But what it really feels is honest. And honesty is the doorway to peace that lasts. Final word. If you're sitting in the quiet after the holidays, feeling tender, heavy, or unsure, hear this clearly, what I'm about to say. You are not too sensitive. You are not too much. You are not ungrateful. You are not failing at healing. And men, you are not manly. You are listening to what your body and soul were asking for. Ladies, you're not that little girl anymore. Men, you're not that little boy anymore. And even though you may feel that way, but it's learning how to gravitate to the reality of who you are now, because that's where real peace begins. Slowly, gently, truthfully, because every moment matters, even after everyone leaves. So after all that was being said, not to say try it this coming New Year's Eve or day, because sometimes when we're not thinking about it and those moments happen, we're not really remembering all of our tools. But maybe write one thing down that stood out to you from this podcast. Write it on a little sidebar on your phone, like in a calendar note or something, or text yourself, or whatever. And just take one tool that you found helpful, keep it with you, and then in those moments when you need it, you can always look back and reference it. And I hope that worked for you. So now you got a second chance. We had Christmas. Now round 2 is coming with New Year's. And I do pray that it is a good New Year's for you. And I pray the best for this coming year for you, and that you're able to do some amazing things, grow leaps and bounds in your healing. And I appreciate you hanging with me during this episode. We've talked a lot, and I hope that it helps you. Drop me a comment. Let me know. What were some things that really stood out to you that meant healing things that maybe you were like the aha moment of, wow, I can try this now. I'd love to hear it. DM me on any of the socials, Your Story Matters. You can find me on Blue Sky. I'm on Threads a lot, Facebook, of course, X, and YouTube, and Instagram. I love being on Instagram every day, and I love seeing you. So drop me a comment there. Let me know what's up. And remember, your story matters. See you next time soon. Bye.
Thanks for joining us today.